here. But anyways, yeah, we were just kind of wrapping up our stack of comics and talking about creator experiences. Bill, I am going to bug you after the show to learn more about this creator, so that way I don't try to book a faulty interview. So I need that skinny. But yeah, so I guess
before you jump into more stuff, I just want to say one other instance. Adam Hughes is like one of my favorite creators. You know, he draws all the big busty women looking so sexy all the time. And, you know, he does such great work. He did he just recently, him and Mike Mignola did a Hellboy with just those two. I absolutely think his artist is perfect. And you know what? As an artist, you don't need to be the greatest speaker. Let your art speak for yourself. So when I went to his, you know, I've got to meet him and had him sign some different things. He's never said more than one or two words, and I've never felt bad at all because I say, I can just look at your art, and that's all I really need. I appreciate what you're doing here. You're the best, so it doesn't matter if you're nice to me or if you have 100 words for me. I'm just one more guy at the con, and I totally get that.
And there's some creators like Chris Sprouse is remarkably awkward in front of people, but he's a great artist. But he's smart enough to not do conventions too often. I do like when there is awareness of what some of your failings are. You know?
Yeah.
I understand that. You know, and I do think there's also a very big difference between writers and artists.
Yeah.
Very big difference in the interactions that you will have with some of them.
I hands down. But yeah, I mean, all of my experience, good or bad, I'm just excited. These are the rock stars of my world. You know, if Beyonce walked down the street and, you know, I don't know, and Brian K. Vaughan was walking down the other side of the street, I'd run over Beyonce to go shake, you know, Brian K. Vaughan's hand, because these are the people that in my life that I look up to and I think, you know, are giving things to the culture that you know, really matter. And so I totally appreciate every creator. Don't worry, just keep going to cons when you know, we all got our shots, we got some herd immunity going and everything's back and open. I do want to see people again. I do want that experience. So even if you aren't super personal, I still like meeting you.
Yeah. And one other thing I have to say is you know, we are also in a situation now where there, you know, writers and artists are leaving us.
Yeah.
You know, I still regret to this day not staying on Nick Cardy's line, because he was dead like 4 months later, and you know, even people that are, you know, Bronze Age artists are leaving us in numbers.
Yeah, I mean, these are
so if this is somebody that you had, you know, that inspired you, you know, in formative years reading, you know, make the time, you know.
It's worth it. And they appreciate it too. I know they do. I mean, if for anybody, especially these older, I always find that, you know, people, a lot of, you know, if you're at a con, they will have literally living legends, people that have given things to our culture, that have formulated all the movies we're seeing now and the storylines and the personalities, and they could be overshadowed by some of the other ones. But it's like that is always who I want to see. I love seeing artists from, you know, that may not even be putting out work right now, have put plenty of work out. I get to go talk about them. You see the spark in their eye when you start asking, oh, you have read that, you remember that, I don't even remember writing that, and all those kind of responses. It's so nice. So yeah, I agree. And it's you know, we're comic books now. I mean, we're talking about when they started. We're approaching on, you know, almost 100 years ago. So all of those legends who brought us this piece of our, you know, culture, you know, they are starting to leave, and it's important to keep those legacies alive.
Mm-hmm. My personal highlight was getting to meet Kurt Busiek, also at FablesCon, I believe. And he literally told me, I was like, can you sign my Thunderbolts #1, like my absolute favorite book. Bad guys pretending to be good guys, Bill, is my jam. And so Kurt was just a riot because he goes, so you like Thunderbolts? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, have you read Astro City? And I'm like, no. And he was like, John Runyon, you're a really bad person.
And you are.
I was next when I said it.
Yeah. So I do have a copy of that, and I am going to read it, and I'm going to tweet to him and say, years later, I hope I redeem myself in your book. So
I will say with Astro City, I am confident. So do you have the first trade?
Just the first issue. I just picked it up. I wanted to try it out and see if I'd like it.
Even that one with the Samaritan with the first issue, it's addictive.
It's
addictive. It's a universe you're familiar with, but remixed.
Yeah. It's arguably my favorite superhero comic series. I absolutely love it so much. Yeah, I mean, I like that he doesn't ever stop. It's just like every once in a while another Astral City comes out.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
And some of those stories will break your heart. The damn corgi. Oh my God. The damn corgi.
Yeah, man.
I am getting in trouble here, you guys. Steve goes, haven't heard
You're dead to me.
James shared some of his favorite meetings here. So Gail Simone and Olivia Koppel were two of the best experiences had meeting idols at cons. Yeah. And it's just so fun that the simplest interaction and taking time to sign and tell me a personal story. You know what my favorite thing is learning about, I've talked to artists where they tell me about the Easter eggs that they slip into certain panels. So they tell me like a side story about the issue that they're signing. That to me makes it for me, because you just get when you look at it next year, like, I know what's going on here. So I enjoy that. And Greg Horn is a riot. I love Greg Horn with his art that he does on some of the covers. He is a blast to get to.
I'm sure Steve will agree with me. If you ever have a chance for Jimmy Palmiotti, do it. So I'm certain Steve is going to chime in on that.
That would be so cool. I mean, he's one of my favorite followers on Twitter. I back all his Kickstarters. I read everything when it was, him and Gray writing everything. I wrote everything. His Jonah Hex is so good, and he has like the ideal. I mean, I'm from South Dakota, so I don't know. You're from New York, so you probably know. But he feels like a true New York kind of guy to me too.
I'm from the outskirts. I'm from New Jersey. He's New York as fuck.
I love that. Okay, good. So I'm not far off, because that's part of it that I love so much about him. It's like he's still so old school New York. Yeah, I love it. I think he's so cool, man.
Another person that's a gas, if you ever have a chance to meet him, is Frank Thierry, the writer.
Oh, really?
He sounds like a mob underboss.
Oh, cool.
But at the same token, he's a very sweet guy and a very underrated writer too. I wish he had more prestige projects, because I have a huge list of those. Whether it's Jeff Parker or whoever. There's some writers that should be getting more work than they do.
What's Jeff Parker writing right now? I mean, I used to just pick up whatever he's writing. I haven't seen his name.
I'm trying to think. The last thing that I read that I was reading consistently from him was Batman 66.
Yeah,
and I guess that ended up. I guess the last one was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so I don't know. He's so good though. I love his writing.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Well, cool, John. I mean, I say, we've gone long enough, guys. Let's start plugging some of our friends and talking about some of the other comic book people around the lines that we need to be checking out. And let's start with you, Bill. Let's plug Comic Book Bears. Where can people find you? How do they find you? How do they listen?
You can find us. I'll do my exit. Okay. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to listen to us, you can do so by downloading us through iTunes, listening to us through Stitcher Radio, or catching us from some of the other podcatching platforms. I am hoping this week will be the first week that we're on Audible, because they are now having tie-ins with certain things. And if you want to write to us, you can do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. And I'm also trying to figure out something else to push, and why not push myself? So a couple of years ago, I wrote a comic book, and this is The Crime Fighter. Yes! You can find it on Comixology for $1.99, or send me an email, and I'll be happy to get a copy out to you. It was initially intended as a first of 6 issues. and it tells the story of Louis Giannetti, who is a divorced father of 2, and finds out his grandfather led a very different life than he had known. So,
Crime Fighter Inquiry,
the Crime Fighter Inquiry. You can find it on Comixology, and if you want a hard copy, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to.
I am so pissed at you because I did not know this.
Oh.
You're coming back again, so we can talk about that.
Okay.
So you know. So that is, I'm so pissed right now, Bill. Wow. I did not know that. More so at myself.
If you want to see some of my other work, I'm in the anthology called Banthology from Kingbone Press. I'm in, there's anthology stories in one of the low concept trades from Kingbone Press. And my former co-host, Matt Brossard, who goes by the pen name Fuzzbelly, he and I contributed a story to the Power compilation anthology, which came out from Geeks Out and Northwest Press. And
cool.
I think you can still find that on the Northwest Press.
Very good.
And that story is very bear centric. The others deal with other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'm checking.
I would totally want to.
Yeah, you look generally shocked when I pull that comic.
I'm so pissed. I did not know that about you at all, and I'm like the worst interviewer ever. That's amazing. I totally want a physical copy. I would love to get it signed. I will pay whatever we need to do to make all of that happen. I don't care. I would love to have a copy. So we will talk about that.
I know a guy. Don't worry.
Well, awesome. Yeah, no, mind blowing. Yeah, you're we'll be following up with you, Mr. Bill, on that. So that is awesome. Well, cool. Well, very good. Again, you guys bouncing off of that though, Comic Book Bears on a serious note, so cool. Before we plug the other shows, Bill, I just gotta say again, thank you for everything that you guys do every week, because I will say, like, during this time, I personally love being able to connect with you guys, and I wasn't even connecting with you guys the first few times I tuned in. I was just sitting there listening and just having a good time. And then a few shows later, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna throw a comment in and just see how it goes. And then you guys are so receptive and welcoming, and that's what I look for in a good show, not podcast, but show, is that participation element. And then you got friendly people like James is just one that bounces off of me in the comments, and getting to know some of the other guys. It's been a blast, and so thank you for all that you guys do and for the show that you have, because for me, it's so fun to get to connect with other shows too. I love what I do, here with Tom, of course, as well, but getting to just see that there's other people out there, specifically like me, makes me really happy, and it's just so cool. So
yeah,
nice.
Well, that's another thing I have to say with the podcasting community. It is very, very supportive. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was starting out, the guys from 11 O'Clock Comics were very helpful. The guys from the Legion of Substitute Podcasters were very helpful. We were part of a network for a time, which has since disbanded. Wendy Freeman from Double Page Spread has become an incredibly good friend. So that is one thing I really like about the podcasting community is, first of all, with in comics, I don't think there's any one of us, maybe Comic Geek Speak or iFanboy for a time, actually made money. So we're not in it for that. And you can say that about a lot of other podcast type of genres. So I'm glad that you reached out to us, and I'm glad we're part of the same community.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, again, I totally see you guys as royalty, and so I'm always going to say that. So thank you again for making time to join us this evening, and it really means a lot. So
and I will say this, I will not say I'm a queen. I don't rank any higher than Lady in Waiting.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Tom?
All right, guys. Well, yeah, that's it for us. I do want to just give a shout out to some of other people in the 605 community, Wednesday Comics, Smash and Grab Comics. We got the Rainbow Show that happens before us on Rainbow Comics. We got all of our friends. So definitely check them out. But, you have to check those out after you watch Comic Book Bears. And so that is tomorrow. Definitely make sure. Make sure you check. them out. So yeah, and of course, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all the different ones. You know the drill. You know what I'm saying, John? Shut us down, dog.
Yeah, man. On Twitter, you can find us singly at @JohnOnDemand, @TomStewDivine, or collectively at @A Comic Book Look. We got you covered. If you want all the sassiness, come to me. If you want all the strict comic book reviews and amazingness, go to Tom. And if you want to see all of us all together, go to @A Comic Book Look. And definitely love connecting with you and hearing from you. If you do want to send us a note, feel free at comicbooklook@gmail.com or join our group on Facebook. We're happy to continue the conversation. We are proudly sponsored by Rainbow Comics. So if you're in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, check out 42nd in Minnesota. Stellar group there. They are just very personable. I love them so much. Every time I walk in, they just do a visual face ID and say, John likes Silver Surfer, Galactus, Dark Avengers. And they know what I want. And they hand, they're like, here you go. Here's some awesome stuff. So they take care of you. They care about their customers. Highly recommend it. If you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, they also have a shop location there. So feel free to swing on down and say howdy to the crew there too. And thank you again, Bill, for your time this evening. Happy Comic Book Sabbath, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in. We apologize for the blackout that we experienced, but always we keep marching forward. We keep staying confident, and we keep it comics for sure, man. See you guys.